Our fifth speaker for today will be accompanied with one of her mates as well, and that is architect Chathurika Kulasinghe, who will be jointly presenting with architect Samudika Kulasinghe, who is a teammate of hers. And I would give a brief introduction of architect Chathurika Kulasinghe. She is a young and budding architect, and she follows the idea that architecture is more than just a brick or a concrete building. It is the creation of spatial experiences through a harmonized composition of tropical design, minimalism, and simplicity, enhanced and optimized by careful selection of materials, the modern rustic nature of locally sourced materials, giving an earthy feel to the space, I beg your pardon, and contrasting against simple color palettes with an occasional splash of color. Chathurika Kulasinghe graduated from the City School of Architecture and seeks to innovate and create excitement in design of architectural spaces with focus on creating a strong connection between the user and the space, dignity, and introducing playfulness to spaces by romantic light and shadow, which play a feel of connectivity with natural elements of space. So her topic for today would be smaller space but bigger place. Over to you, architect Chathurika Kulasinghe and architect Samudika Kulasinghe.
Good evening to all. In this presentation, we will be discussing small space but in a bigger place. Why is it important to discuss this subject? As we all know, we are in the middle of financial crisis. As a result, it's critical to make the best use of the small space. Additionally, working in a smaller square area is obviously less expensive than working in a larger area. So what's the difference between space and place? For an architect, space is anything that hosts design. Space is genetic and carries no value. When designer is introduced into a space, it takes a personality on its own, complete with value and meaning. These values can be both tangible and intangible. So, while anyone can build a space, how do we make a place? More importantly, how can we make a small space feel bigger? This is where a client requires an assistant of an architect. When the clients bring a project to the architect, we try to understand clients' needs and how we can meet them within the given budget and the time frame. More importantly, we carefully added value to the design stage through the use of materials, colors, and textures. Furthermore, the way we arrange a spatial progression and volume manipulates the user to have a positive psychological experience of the space. So, Samudika will take over from here to talk about two projects that created by CK Architects and how we expose those ideas.
The first project we are presenting today is named after the plot's unique shape, cul-de-sac, which interprets the house with a turning circle. And we'd like to demonstrate through this project how turning circles can be used efficiently without feeling overwhelmed. This double-story house with 1,400 square feet was completed in 2019. It's located in Horahena, a suburban area, and is administered by Kaduwala Municipal Council. So the client purchased this land from a land sale, and as you can see, the land plot has an unusual shape due to the turning circle. As a result, the land was less expensive than the other plots. The client was a young couple, and during the initial design discussions, they explained and showed pictures of what they wanted. And significant proportion of these pictures include houses in larger space, houses in larger gardens. So the principal architect's challenge was to accommodate their main requirements while also providing open spaces on this 6.5 purchase of odd-shaped land. To accommodate the open spaces, the architect first identified areas that required more privacy and security. The private section include the bedrooms, bedroom area, kitchen, and the toilet, which is on the left side, which can be locked, and the living and dining area were placed on the pavilion portion of the house, which is more open and connected to nature. This section contains the public activities. So this is a ground floor plan of the house. Number 1 is the access road. Number 2 depicts how the turning circle that protrudes into the land affect the uniformity of the land's shape. This is the main entrance to the house. This is the main entrance to the house. And number 4, which is the living area, which is open to the garden from both the sides. And then you have the kitchen and the kitchen yard, which is again open to the garden. And then you have the visitor's bedroom and the toilet. As you can see, all these spaces are always visually as well as physically connected with garden spaces, even within this small plot of land. This is the upper floor plan. You enter into the bedroom climbing up, and number 11 is the bathroom, and then you have the terrace area, which is again open to all, which is completely open from all the sides. The longitudinal section shows how the spaces are connected in a longitudinal manner. This picture was taken right after the construction. At this time, garden was just about to flourish. You can see the living space take the form of the turning circle, and it's concaved from the entrance side. Also, we want to have a beamless ceiling, which provide a visually smooth finish at the ground level. The living space is just a continuation of the open space, provided with necessary shade, and it's well lit with the natural daylight as well as naturally ventilated. This is the same space at night time. Some people may be concerned about the safety of the house. And I have to say that we haven't had a burglary for the past 3 years. Also, this is the public section of the house. And the green door leads into the more private spaces of the house which needs security. This house uses an earthly color palette with a few contrasting colors where necessary to blend in with nature. Also, in terms of materials, we use the natural finish of materials rather than extra coatings or coverings such as plasters, paints, and tiles, which helps to save money and cut down unnecessary costs. These choices made this project far more financially viable. This is where you lead into the much private section of the house. Because this is a smaller plot, the kitchen space is quite narrow. But because it is open to the open kitchen yard, you have the impression that you are working in a much larger space. As you can see, the space beneath the stairwell also utilized for the kitchen. This is the visitor's bedroom, the powder room, both linked with garden spaces. The stairs leads you up to the master bedroom, and onto your right side you have the terrace space. As discussed, on the ground floor living space, we wanted to have space without beams, so upstanding beams were used. Those beams are also served as a built-in seat on the terrace. And the master bedroom is located on the first floor, where it has the most privacy. And here's a walkthrough of the house after the greenery has taken over to some extent. Few remarks on the project are, it is important to note that when there is a good communication and when the client gives the architect a lot of freedom, it's very easy to work out a good design. So at the beginning, the architect considered two options, one with an open pavilion that responds to the turning circle, another one a rectilinear, much closed option. And the client accepted the challenge, opting for the open pavilion option. In many cases, we find that the clients have a lot of requirements and are hesitant to reduce them even when we provide guidance. So in this project, the client understood their main needs with the help of the architect, which allowed them to work within their budget. Also, at a time of a financial crisis, we need to understand that home or a shelter is a basic need, but we have to take measures to do it in such a way to minimize the cost. The open spaces, exposed brick, and rough plaster all contributed to cost saving in this project, as did the structure. Even within the 6.5 perch, we accommodated many green spaces, making the client feel as if they were living in a much larger space. This was very much appreciated by the client during the Corona period, as they didn't feel like trapped inside a box due to the lush greenery. And then we are moving to our next project, studio plugging, a creation of a studio apartment. This is a renovation project of a 720 square feet area completed in 2020. The existing house spread across 15 perch land, and the renovated section is within 2.5 perch area. Just as the name refers, this is a plugging into an existing house. The existing house was built in 1960s in Navala and consisted of 3 bedrooms. The architect decided to create separate studio apartments that could operate independently of the main house while also accommodating her office space. For this purpose, a portion with minimal structural changes and also minimal disruption to the user's activity patterns were chosen. The chosen area included 1.5 bedroom spaces and garden space in the front and the rear. And there was a large rose apple tree in the garden, which the architect had sentimental values for having grown up in this house. During its fruit-bearing season, the tree also connected the neighborhood and had an intangible social value. As a result, a design decision was made to create a new design revolving around and responding to the rose apple tree. As you can see, there is very little demolition, which is denoted by the dotted lines. And the new walls and the areas are denoted by the pink walls. A curved wall was introduced at the front to create a welcoming entrance. The frontmost section is more public, followed by a secondary semi-public area and the innermost private section. The public and semi-public areas are still skillfully separated by a built-in bookshelf, which is this one, which provide the visual barrier required to add more privacy to the inner spaces. This is how the plan looks like after the renovation. Front section accommodates the office space, which can be directly accessed by the clients. From there, we have the kitchenette, the bedroom space, the courtyard, and the bathroom, making the spaces more private as you walk in. The long section depicts how each space is linked to open areas. The narrow strip is connected to nature at 2 points, here and here, allowing it to interact with greenery despite its small size. A portion of office space is open to sky, allowing it to interact with greenery. A portion of the office space is open to sky, allowing the natural ventilation and lighting. The bedroom is also linked to the courtyard, which provides the same. This photograph was taken during the rose apple season. As you can see, a portion of the office space is linked to the open to sky outdoor space. Because of the way the design is done, it feels like you're working under a tree and getting to experience all the changes in the environment. This is a picture showing the same area before and after the renovation. You can see how the bookshelf, here, this is the bookshelf which I was talking about before. It helps to create the privacy that the inner section needs because it works as a covering. And then you can see how the new entrance was arranged over here, and as well as how the tree was preserved in the new design. And this is a collection of images that depict the construction process that took place. This shows the front elevation of the entire property. This was a portion which was renovated. The curved wall is slightly set back to enhance the pink rustic wall, which runs throughout, separating the studio from the main house. On the right side, you can see the old house, which was built in 1960s, and the renovation portion onto your left side, which was done carefully, minimizing changes to the main house. This made it cost effective. The same roof was used as roof is used as it is, and only a small slab was introduced for the office space. Because the rose apple tree has been there since we were children, and it's a lovely phenomenon when the entire area is covered with pink blossoms. The color pink was chosen for the rustic wall that serves as a feature wall. This is how the space looks like at the night time. When you walk in, you come into the kitchenette area, which is efficiently contained in a smaller space. Then you get into the bedroom space, which is open up into an interior courtyard. Most of the furniture is repurposed, recolored, and altered to suit the new design. At the rearmost, you have the bathroom. The courtyard accommodates the small gatherings, and the furniture can be arranged effectively to such occasions. This shows how the courtyard is linked with the bedroom space and how a person can enjoy a greenery even in such a small limited area. The bigger opening made it more effective. Then we go on to a walkthrough of the space. Many people believe that you must always demolish the entire structure to accommodate a new function. However, as explained in this project, if you have a limited budget, renovation may be a viable option. Also, during a financial crisis, repurposing a building is a better idea, though it requires a lot more creativity and work on a renovation project. This also shows how we can live in harmony with nature even in a small space. The same roof was used in this project, as you can see. Only a small slab was introduced for the office space. And these small changes made it more cost-effective intervention. And then understanding the space and the activity patterns that can occur also aided in this creation of a well-functional space. After all, this is how you can make a small space but a bigger place. Thank you.
Thank you, Architect Chathurika and Architect Samruddhika. That was indeed eye candy, I'd say. Are there any questions? Suggestions? Whenever I ask that, the crowd just looks the other side. No questions, I believe. Okay, so without taking much of your time, I would move on to our next speaker for today. So we've got Architect Russell Dandenia. He's a well-known character amongst us today. And before I invite him to the podium, I would like to also mention that he will be accompanied by architects Sajeeva Madhushankar, and the presentation will be done by Ms. Isuri Gunavardhana. And before I invite her to the podium, I'll give a brief introduction of Architect Russell Dandenia. He's an award-winning architect, and he established RDCA in September 2008, and subsequently found RDC Architects Private Limited to broaden its activities. Since then, this small studio-based practice has become very popular in a short period, absorbing a unique core of competent young chartered architects and a range of externally connected specialist consultants. Over the last decade, it has grown steadily in experience and strength, bringing in a unique and inventive, high-quality, futuristic, and practical architecture for others to follow. Multiple award-winning projects, or the success story behind Architect Russell Dandenia, is a positive and sustainable customer relations which has resulted in a much stable, passionate evolution of the firm today. I would like to cordially invite Ms. Isuri Gunavardhana over to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. We are RDC Architects team. I'm Isri Gunardana. We are here to present you about the importance of form of architecture. To be unique in built environment and to make an identity, built-in form playing a major role in architecture. It is an essential aspect of architectural designing as the form of a building can impact its functionality, aesthetical appearance and all over impact on the built environment. Form is often impacted by various factors such as cultural, historical, social and technological context. People are just think about only the plan or the planning when they are starting to build something. They don't have any idea what should be the ultimate product looks like. They might took some precedence and request from architect a similar output for them. But architects are never going to repeat the same thing because form can represent the quality of the occupants or activity and the importance of the building. And also it can be differ with the construction methods and climate variations. As architects, it's our responsibility to develop a form by achieving the requirements of the occupants and all other aspects through plans and experiencing the spatial qualities as well. Though people are talking about the plans, the ultimate architectural product is a form. Therefore, in design approach, form is very important and interesting. I don't know whether we should start designing from a plan or from a form. As RDC architects, always we are coming up for a form as a solution. For us, form is more important than plans. But we know, of course, plan is very important because functional efficiency, interrelationship between spaces and all necessaries are arranging with planning. But more than that, what we are feeling, of course, it's form. The first impression of a building is coming up with a form. After that, we are entering into the building. Only from that point, we are experiencing the space. Space is something different from the plan. It's a three-dimensional factor which feels from our sixth sense of the body. Plan is just a 2D thing that we are used to develop the spatial progression and the requirement of the occupants. We can see how architects in the world, their approaches of different buildings and different forms. When we are creating a form, materiality is also an important aspect. Always new materials are used with the evolution of the architecture to create form, for example, BG National Stadium, Villa Savoy, Guggenheim Museum, Walt Disney Concert Hall. Main items of the creating a form is skeleton and the skin. For the first time in Bird Nest Olympic Theatre, they made a skeleton and the skin separately. From the technology, people are finding unique ways to create different forms. So now we are going to explain a very simple approach by our office. This is for a very unique and exclusive newly married couple. Husband was a cricketer and the wife was an air hostess. So the lady wanted curves and the husband requested for straight lines. We said no, first you have to come up with your requirements. They said then they started with planning and they discussed about their spatial requirements and top of that they again requested the curves. So curves in the plan and curves in the form, we stuck somewhere. What we did, we rotated spaces in the plan around the pivotal cylindrical form. So the cylindrical item we used for place the staircase and the living area. We have used some features with timber to emphasize the space and give weight to the space. It is a very dramatical journey. When we ride around light, shade and the waves, it's like a drama. One side we placed functional spaces and utility spaces. In the other side we placed their private and semi-private spaces. There were 2 blocks. So these 2 blocks linked up with the central staircase and the dome. The cylindrical space, dome and 2 cubes were the main elements we have used. In the dome there is a lining which we used as the concept of a leather ball which related to the cricketer. At the end, house became home. It's a lovely place for live and get more time to live in. So air hostess decided to be a housewife and the cricketer stopped traveling too much and he became an entrepreneur. It's a very good example how a real home can enhance one's lifestyle. Architecture is just not creating building, it's create lifestyle. So, next time if you're planning to build a house, yes, you have to go with your basic sketch and your preferences, but don't go with 1001 images. Don't type in Google best house in the world and show it to your architect. They never ever repeat things. They are always creating something unique according to your aspiration. Therefore, you have to go with an open mind, and you have to have a long chat with your architect. If that chat is not adequate, you have to have a coffee or dinner to express your idea with more details. Then only they can understand what you really need and what you prefer. Then only they can design a perfect design for you. Thank you. So the principal architect is here. If you have any question, you can ask from him.